Hello everyone, Jonathan here with another What Is This Weapon? And somebody has left me a present. We are approaching that time of year, vaguely, time of recording. And by a sort of coincidence, this is actually wrapped up, boxed up in fact. So, and I went looking for this to do a video on it for you lovely people. And it wasn't on the wall where I thought it would be, and it hadn't been for years, as it turned out. It had been lovingly sequestered away in this container for reasons that I will explain. And so I unboxed it then, and I'm gonna unbox it again for you now. So my conservation colleagues have put some. This is an archival grade box, and they've even put a little thing to tell you what it is on the end. I won't show you that yet because I want to do the reveal. Velcro to hold this. This is Tyvek, by the way. These are inert materials, that's the idea. They don't off-gas, they don't damage the object, because we're trying to preserve this. So, what is my present? Well, it's one I can't take home with me, unfortunately, but... So, this is the biggest, the business end of it, most important bit. We have a buttstock here as well to put on. This is a model 1928 Thompson gun, suspiciously shiny and plasticky. And that's really the important aspect of this. Let's dig out the buttstock. So the buttstock is the normal Dulite blackened blue finish. Slots on as normal. The butt plate is the normal finish. The sights and sight protectors are the cocking handle, the barrel, the cups compensator, and all of the controls and the spring on the side here. And the trigger, those are all standard form of blued steel. But the real kind of main event here is this lightweight aluminium or aluminum. Let's not have a flame war in the comments over that one. Both are valid. The receiver set. Let's find a magazine for this because it doesn't look right without a magazine. Okay. Could not resist grabbing the 100-round Thompson drum to give this its most impressive look. Be a little bit careful because this thing is made out of a softer metal than the magazine. And there we go. I think that looks pretty impressive. Almost a bit video game with its bright, shiny aluminium finish and a great big dinner plate size magazine. Now, let me just explain the sort of conservation aspect there. So when I first came across this many years ago now, this was already drooped like this, or maybe not as much, but it was drooping. And what unfortunately nobody had realised at the pattern room or here at the armories is that this sitting on the wall, and we're still not quite clear on how this is happening, but the polymer, because this is a polymer buttstock, pistol grip, and forend here, were changing shape. The chemical structure is breaking down to some extent, and with only a screw here holding this on, the unsupported ends are starting to droop under their own weight. Speaking for myself, and I believe my colleagues as well, assumed that this was from the heat of firing. Obviously, the normal Thompson has a wooden furniture, quite resistant to heat, and we assumed, oh, it's experimental. This is drooped under the heat of firing. I think everybody assumed this as well. Frank Iannamico, who has written a book, but he's also written a specific article on this, which we'll link in the description. I think everyone assumed this was heat. It's not heat. In fact, you can see there with the pistol grip, this has either dropped away under its own weight or has shrunk. I don't think it's shrunk. It's, yeah, something weird is going on with this thing. And even the butt plate there, you can see the polymer is pulled away and narrowed as well. It is like it's melting. So, sadly, had it been in a different storage setup, this wouldn't have happened. Then again, if it had been mounted vertically in a rack, which would be the more typical way to store stuff, this would have slid down that way, this might have drifted off the back, this would have still... So we don't fully understand what's going on, except that polymers are very volatile, or can be, and they break down. So all we can do, and doing this video to show you this and get it on film, it's already in a few books and that article, and then it will go back into its bed, which my conservation colleagues have made for it, so that it's not sitting under its own weight, and hopefully we can minimize any further distortion of this polymer, which I believe is called tennite. The other term that's used in the literature is transite, but I think they accompany. Tennite, I believe, is the formulation of polymer that this is. Clearly not as satisfactory as they would have wished. Who are they? Well, Savage, the Savage Company, who made a lot of the 1928 model Thompsons, the British order from 1940, notably. They made 40 of these as a trial in 1943, and that's when this receiver set was made. One of 3 sets to survive today that we know of. Not an original trials gun. All of those were destroyed. 40 of those were made in 1943. They tried them, and, well, it didn't go very well. I'll just finish up at the end by explaining that, but it wasn't just the polymer. So we have these 40 guns made in 1943, but the original proposal for a lightweight, I haven't said this yet, but this is the point, a lightweight Thompson. Anyone that's picked one up knows they are a hefty lump. A good 10 pounds, and then if you have a drum mag with 50 or 100 like this, probably not by this point, but you'd have the 50, that's a hell of a lot of weight. So they're looking to bring the weight down and at the same time simplify manufacture, but this is like a parallel to that. So aluminium alloy receiver and the polymer furniture. But the original proposal dates from 1940. Springfield Armoury draws up a proposal for, and they call it Hiduminium. It's described as Hiduminium 53C. 53C being a Rockwell hardness scale rating. Not actually very hard. I think that's slightly a bit softer than 7075 aluminium alloy today. So it's sort of aircraft grade aluminium. In fact, I believe it was invented by Rolls-Royce, or for Rolls-Royce, for aircraft engines. So it's aircraft grade aluminium, but it's a little bit softer than even 7075 today, which I gather is not the hardest out there. Now, you don't want it to be too hard, you don't want it to be too soft, you want the material to be appropriate for the task, and heating is the other issue. So we've got two problems with choosing a different metal alloy for a receiver. One is heat. It's got to be resistant to a build-up of heat, because the barrel, which is locked into this different alloy here, is going to transmit heat, obviously, to the receiver. Heat will build up within the receiver. It has to be able to resist a certain amount of heat. It has to be not too brittle, obviously, especially as its qualities effectively are altered by the heat. The other problem, you've probably thought of this already. This is an open bolt submachine gun. There's nothing locking the bolt shut. It blows back under cartridge projection, under the pressure of the round, slams into the back of the receiver. And that was the ultimate thing that seems to have killed off this project, is that the receiver stretches slightly from getting battered by the bolt coming back. So the alloy might have been appropriate for heat. That's not clear, but it wasn't. I guess even if it had been harder, there's a reasonable chance of it fracturing at the back here. So they couldn't fit in enough of a buffer, and it would have changed up the rate of fire and everything as well, to prevent the wear and tear on this alloy. It turns out, at least for an open bolt gun, that an aluminium receiver, at least at the time, wasn't really feasible. Now, it's not actually clear that this was made out of hiduminium, because I've got other references to Duralumin, which is the same sort of aluminium alloy that aircraft skins and spars and frames and things were made out of in the Second World War. So I'm not entirely clear. If anyone can clarify that aspect for me, please do. So we had the 1940 Springfield Armoury proposal with hiduminium, and we have later references in literature to Duralumin. Whatever it is, it's an aluminium alloy, softer than steel, hence the problem. Now, incidentally, this polymer furniture here, and they even contracted for a plastic polymer drum magazine, would you believe? I'd love to see one of those. I don't think any survived. The company contracted to do the polymer was Eastman Chemical Products. Yes, that Eastman, as in Eastman Kodak. So there's an ongoing kind of corporate industrial relevance to this as well, even if it didn't actually go anywhere. So I've said that the 40 test trials guns were destroyed. Well, not all the receivers were destroyed. So the reason we have this and the other two that are out there exist, they've been built up immediately after the war, 1946-ish, by a gun company who bought surplus parts. So there was apparently only one set of the plastic furniture, which isn't this, so we don't know where this plastic furniture came from. We can't even be 100% sure it's the correct stuff. But it's so close to the other guns, that the other gun that we've seen the pictures of, that it basically has to be correct. So someone must have found somehow on the market another set of tenite furniture with the straight forend, because the other gun that's pictured has the vertical grip. They'd made them in both forms. So the only difference here, all the markings on this are the same, the form of the receiver is the same, it's just made out of a different alloy and is substantially lighter as a result, but it is missing a serial number. So the standard Savage company markings, this is the Savage company, one of the major makers of Thompson guns, notably the 1940 contract for the British Thompson guns. They were 1928 models made by Savage, and they would normally mark up the serial number on there at the point of building the gun into a gun from the parts. Well, these three sets that we know of, this being one of them, upper and lower, never had a serial marked. That serial number was applied for the Canadian government, who, like most governments, required a firearm to have a serial number before you could actually sell it or do anything with it. And a lot of what I'm telling you here, and I'm going to go on to tell you, comes from Jim Garneau, who contacted me some years ago. Many thanks, Jim, for that information, and owned one of the three built-up guns. So it was actually in 1945, so immediately after the war, not later on, that these guns got built up. So as Jim informed me, a Canadian factory owner, John Wolfe, purchased a big batch of Thompson parts, surplus. He paid a gunsmith in Little Britain, not that Little Britain, not this Little Britain, the one in Ontario, Canada. He paid a gunsmith called Les Hall to build guns from these parts, normal Thompsons, and then 3 with the aluminium receivers and 1 with the polymer furniture, not this one. We don't know where the polymer furniture for this one actually came from. Now, it's believed that had these made it into service, they would have been, I mean, it's not just believed, it's just common sense, they would have been blackened in some way, perhaps even anodized, but in some way painted black or colored black. This would be far too shiny for any kind of military use. Now, when this chap discovered that he had 3 aluminium receiver sets, he discovered it by picking them up. And they were weirdly lightweight. They were covered in some black paint or other material. He cleaned that off. I'm hopeful that wasn't actually a factory finish of any kind. It wouldn't have been. They would have serial numbered the guns before they coloured them, I'm sure. So someone had covered them up, maybe to disguise what they were, to try and preserve them, because they'd been told to destroy all of the aluminium Thompson guns. Maybe someone saved them for the future that way. Don't know. But these guys were able to assemble 3 guns, and they are still around today as a result of that. So we're told that one of these guns, this one, ended up at a gun store in Toronto and was sold along with 3,000 rounds of ammunition. This is why a lot of us thought this was from heat. So we thought someone had caned a load of ammunition through it before we got hold of it. Weirdly, it then shows up at a castle in Scotland. Someone who must have had, I guess, prior to the 1968 Firearms Act, a little bit easier to own a Section 5 firearm, and we had a private owner somewhere in a Scottish castle with a fully automatic Thompson that's also aluminium. How that happened, I don't know. And then he passed that on to the Ministry of Defence pattern room. We received that collection in 2005. Now, you might well have, some of you, seen this photographed online. You might have read the books. The one thing, and you probably find this information elsewhere, the one thing you won't find is the weight. No one seems to have measured this. So if we pop off,
Queen.
pop the magazine back off. It's really not representative to have that hanging off it. First of all, subjectively, it's definitely lighter than the 10+ pound Tommy gun. The polymer furniture, well, it turned out that was actually, if anything, slightly heavier and a bit slick on the hands as well. It was complained that your hands would slip off if they were sweaty or. Yeah. So, didn't quite achieve the objective there. The receiver, upper and lower receiver, absolutely was lighter, substantially lighter, and I can feel that in my hands. The actual weight, though, let's do that now on this vintage museum pair of scales, that set of scales, which probably needs its own accession number, but should be good enough for this job. So magazine removed, and we have, I believe, 8.44 pounds. So these aren't super accurate. They're going to vary a little bit. Round about 8.43 to 8.45 pounds. So not actually 2 pounds, but still a substantial weight saving. So 10.75 pounds is the sort of book weight for the 1928 Thompson without a magazine. This is, yeah, they haven't quite made it to 2 pounds, but it's a substantial weight saving there. And you can feel it. You can feel it. The Thompson has always stood out for its, frankly, excessive weight, a product of being one of the first designs out there and being very robust for military service. So this was a great idea, but didn't quite stick the landing with the whole stretching of the receiver and less than satisfactory furniture issues. Now, in theory, the polymer furniture would be lower maintenance. It would be lower cost to mass produce once you scale up to production. But they weren't quite ready for the big time there. So there we go. That's the lightweight Thompson. I mean, it is substantially lighter than the normal 1928, or the M1 for that matter. Puts it in the same ballpark, or more so, of things like the MP40, the Sten gun, which were substantially lighter than this thing, 6 to 7 pounds, something like that. This isn't even there yet. This is 8 pounds something, but it's much closer. It's in the same kind of comfortable bracket. Now, soldiers, I don't think, ever complained about how heavy the Thompson was. They absolutely loved the thing. But in terms of all the weight you have to carry as a soldier, not ideal for this thing to be nearly 11 pounds. So good effort, no cigar. But what it does show is the way forward, absolutely. So we already have some experiments with lightweight materials, especially polymers. MP40, substantially the lower receiver is made of polymer. But this really represents the future. Think of the AR-15, 1957 onwards. Polymer furniture, obviously, and aluminium alloy receiver, upper and lower. And just about everything these days is either that or it's a polymer lower receiver with the aluminium upper. So they're absolutely going along the right lines. It's just that converting the legacy technology of essentially Edwardian era machined steel and nicely finished walnut into something. They were trying to run before they could walk, essentially, with this type of technology. But we're very fortunate to have one of the artifacts of that program, and it will now go back into its conservation bed, where hopefully it won't droop any further. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed that one. Don't forget to do the usual YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe. All three is great. You can also donate to us via the link in the description if you'd like to do that. And with Christmas coming, we have, well, we always have our online shop, but with Christmas coming, you might want to check it out. There's the new range of windlass swords with Matt Easton that we've collaborated with him to create another set of swords that you might like to check out as well. And some very exciting news. Very soon, I will be reuniting with my friend and yours, Dave Jewett, to talk about all things, well, guns and gaming, as we have done for a number of years now. And we're going to have a viewer-submitted Q&A session for that. So also in the description, you will find a link where you can submit questions. So please do that, because I'm really looking forward to answering them. I know he is too. And we might have some other surprises for you with Dave as well. So whatever you do, check us out again here on the Royal Armouries channel next week.